Hello, and welcome to another episode of Transformational Leadership TV. I'm your host, Genesis Eeks, and we are here to inspire, equip, and challenge leaders just like you to do their part to change the world around them. Now, one of the things that we get to do is how we like to help people is we interview other transformational leaders. We like to interview transformational leaders from around the world so that you can learn from their story. And you're not just getting data or someone else that's giving an inspiring message, but you're actually learning from people in the field that are actually doing transformational work. So today I am joined by none other than Hassan Kibirango with iLead Rwanda. So welcome, Hassan. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Genesis, for having me. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we are so excited that you are here today. And before we jump into your story and all of the amazing things that are happening in Rwanda, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Yeah, like you've said, my name is Hassan Kibirango. I live in Rwanda, which is a small country on the eastern side of Africa. But I was born and raised in Uganda, which is a country north of Rwanda. So making 40 years old next year, married with 4 children, and I'm excited to be serving on the iLead team as a program manager for the iLead team here in Rwanda. My heart beats for leaders. Any opportunity that I have to serve leaders, help them become better, to equip them, to challenge them for personal growth, but also to help them grow for the betterment of their communities is really what I live for. And the current position in which I serve is giving me an opportunity to do that at scale for the young people in Rwanda through the iLead program. Yeah, that is who I am. I am also a pastor. I serve as a pastor at a local church where I'm one of the pastors and I serve the men there. But my biggest burden and heartbeat is for the next generation of leaders in my country and on my continent of Africa. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that's who I am and that's what I do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hassan. And so one of the things that we talk about on this program is that transformational leaders don't just see problems, but they actually take action to do something about it. And I know you just mentioned a little bit about iLead Rwanda and some of the things that you guys are doing there. You're the program manager for iLead Rwanda. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about iLead Rwanda and what iLead Rwanda is and what it's doing to bring about transformational change in your country?
Okay, thank you very much. So iLead Rwanda is it's a values-based program. It's a curriculum that we take out to schools and we put students into groups we call roundtables, where every week they meet for 1 hour and have conversations around these values that were put together in a curriculum format. Now, iLead is the brainchild of John Maxwell, whom many of us have been following as really the progenitor of great leadership. He wrote this curriculum a couple of years ago, really with the heart of infusing values to the next generation. And one of the quotes that caught my attention that John Maxwell put together is a quote about vision. He says that vision without action is just a dream, and action without values is a nightmare. So the iLead program is a values-based curriculum that we run for 3 years in secondary schools, or what you would call elementary and high school, and also universities here in Rwanda. And we started it here in Rwanda last year, and we've been running it for almost 2 years now. We have about 200 schools that are already taking the iLead program. And currently we have 35 students that are on the program, 35,000 students that are on the program. And just this week, we are onboarding 60,000 students for this new academic year. And we have an extra 5,000 students that are in juvenile rehab centers in Rwanda. So by the end of October, we will have about 100,000 students in Rwanda taking this iLead program. So it's such an exciting journey. And maybe very quickly, so we have 16 values that John Maxwell wrote out through this curriculum that they sit and discuss throughout their engagement. So it's a group of students that meet, they have manuals, and they talk about some of these values like attitude, like growth, like commitment, and how they can help each other as peers to grow these values, but also it helps them lead themselves well. And really this comes off of a thesis or just an ethos that young people or teenagers really feed and trust each other a lot, much more than actually they trust adults. So that is why this program is peer-led. We don't teach them the program, we give them the curriculum, and they have conversations around a table. We call it round tables, and they just have fun discovering themselves through these values that John Maxwell created.
Well, that's amazing. I can't, just the numbers alone are really impressive. Being able to, you started talking about 35,000 and then another 60,000, and looking at 100,000 students across Rwanda that are impacted by these values. That's really incredible. So tell me a little bit, let me take you back. I know you said you haven't been doing this that long, which is also pretty amazing that you've been able to jump that much and get so much traction in really affecting some positive change in your country. But tell me, what was happening? What was happening in your country? What do people not know that was maybe that defining moment for you that just said, I'm tired of what I'm seeing and I need to do something about it? What was that moment for you?
Yeah, I think the moment actually predates me particularly, but it's a moment that really happened to our nation 30 years ago. So many people know Rwanda. They know us about a genocide that happened in Rwanda 30 years ago. And this was an unfortunate situation that was building up over decades. And then the lead just went off 30 years ago, where in just 100 days, 1 million people were killed at the hands of their neighbors. And of course, there's a whole lot of history to why that happened, but it's less than a generation since that happened. And Rwanda is trying to rebuild itself from that tragedy. But one of the things that for me were a trigger is when I came back to Rwanda. So like I said, I was born and raised in Uganda. I came back to Rwanda 15 years ago. And one of the sites you visit is the memorial. It's like the museum that commemorates the genocide. And there's a plaque on the wall there where one of the people who committed the genocide was interviewed after the genocide. And this is what he said, Genesis. He said, the reason why we went so low as a nation is that we lost our values. We lost our values. And for me, that was such an aha moment. And I was inspired to take my own lessons of leadership where I grew up and said, the opportunity that we have is to help the next generation of leaders in Rwanda never again to attempt something where hatred and sectarianism and strife amongst ethnic people could ever cause something like that to happen again. Because ultimately the failure that led to the genocide in Rwanda was a failure of leadership. John Maxwell, our friend, says everything rises and falls on leadership. Well, Rwanda fell so deep 30 years ago, really because of a crisis of leadership. But again, if you follow the story of Rwanda today, is that Rwanda has been picked up again, really again through people who took on the mantle of leadership, and a leadership that looks beyond self, that serves other people. And right now, Rwanda is a miracle. If you visited Rwanda, I know you'll be coming down very soon, Genesis. If you visited Rwanda, right now, Rwanda is the second best country to do business in the whole of Africa. Rwanda is the safest country in Africa. Rwanda is the city of Kigali, which is our capital, is the cleanest city in Africa. Rwanda has one of the youngest population of leaders that are leading the country. We have cabinet ministers and leaders that are below the age of 50, most of them in their early 40s, so they are young leaders. But we also have a nation that understands where we failed and realizes that it's again going to take a different kind of leadership to be able to pass on the country that they're rebuilding today. And that is a values-based transformational leadership. So in this rebuilding process, iLead walks in as a program that is just, it's really, for me, it was a plug and play, because we're already on the journey of mentorship and leading the next generation. So for me, the defining moment and why I jumped onto the opportunity to serve with the iLead program is because it has an amazing curriculum that fits a need, especially for the next generation of leaders, to lead from a place that is beyond looking at self and serving others. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's crazy because, obviously being based here in the United States, I've studied different things in history and did understand a little bit of, from a Western perspective of what happened in Rwanda, and understanding, of course, unfortunately being famous for the genocide. But what is beautiful to hear is, in a short 35 years, it's not that long, the huge amount of transformation that's taken place. And so thank you so much for sharing all of the growth and that transformation that is already taking place on a country level, not just with the next generation, but that huge investment that you guys are also making in the next generation to ensure that it keeps going. Right, to ensure that it keeps going. So you mentioned, obviously, wow, you guys had this huge moment in history that was like, we have to do something different. And tell me about what your first steps were. What did that look like? I know, I love that moment where you were saying, I saw this quote on the wall and realizing that deficit of values, but you still had to take action, right? Leaders have to take action. It's not enough. And I think that's one thing that it is so important for our listeners, our viewers, to be able to understand, because there's probably someone somewhere around the world that is in a similar place like you. Maybe their country or maybe their area hasn't gone through this same crisis or traumatic event that Rwanda went through, but there's something that needs to be different. There's something that they are looking at and saying, this can't happen anymore. We're so tired of this, and they're seeing this and they want to do something about it. But what did you do? What were those first steps for you?
Yeah. So iLead Rwanda began through really conversations and many people, I don't know if you know this, Genesis, but a few friends of John Maxwell, who are friends of Rwanda, met our president in 2019. And he was visiting in the US, and they were just having conversation, and they said, hey, we have this amazing program that was created by a great friend of ours, John Maxwell, and it's a great program for young people. And we thought that it would be good for you to look into it and see if your country would be interested in running the program. So that's where the conversation started. And then the conversation led to my leader right now, who is the head of the organization implementing the program, to see if his organization could partner with the John Maxwell Foundation for us to kickstart iLead in Rwanda. So the first steps were obviously conversations, going to different stakeholders, government leaders, and saying, hey, we have an amazing program that we have an opportunity to onboard our students for, and we're looking for partnership. But again, because it started with our presidents whose heart beats for values-based leadership, it wasn't difficult to get many people on board. It was a little bit easy. Yeah, but then the government came on board quite easily. But the next steps after that were then to convince certain schools to rethink their timetables and their curriculum, because they're already busy running a school through a very organized format. So bringing this new program in there was something that we had to convince them about and say, hey, it is new for us here in Rwanda, but based on the stories where it has run in the US and South America, we think it's going to help our students. So we got a few schools on board. The very first cohort of schools was 10 schools. But the very first steps I remember were just conversations, and selling iLead as though we knew it and we knew it would impact them. We did believe in its in the story that it had done, the transformation it had done for students in South America. And so the first steps were conversational, and we gladly brought people on board, and they started believing in the program. And right now, what was 10 schools in January of last year, 2022, is now 200 schools. And what started as 2,000 students is now going to be 100,000 students by the end of October. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, and I think that's one thing that sometimes we forget as we go in a journey, or maybe when we're looking at someone else's life and or a transformational movement that they're a part of, and we're like, wow, I need change where in my own backyard, I need change in my organization, I need change in the place that I live, but I could never do what Hassan's doing. I could never have the impact that they're having in Rwanda. And I think it's so important for transformational leaders to realize that it starts with a conversation.
Yeah.
All of this always starts with a conversation. And we've had some conversations before, and I know that you actually have a massive team that you've helped to develop. And, those conversations, what I'm hearing you say is where it started with conversations, it was conversations with different stakeholders, because you knew you didn't have it. You might have had a vision, or you might have had a dream for what it could be, but you couldn't accomplish it on your own. And being able to have those conversations, right? It would
absolutely. And you see, the conversations were really pegged on some very fundamental questions. And the questions we had for our leaders and the different people is, imagine the next generation of Rwandan leaders leading from a place of values, transforming their communities from a place of personal transformation. If you would imagine Rwanda of the future, 10, 20 years from now, what would you see? And then the next thing we ask them is, what do we need to do to get our young people to that place where they're leading sacrificially, selflessly, and then from that we would then introduce the program and say, hey, how about we try this tried and tested program? Of course, contextualize it for our people with your help as a school leader, as a government leader. And I think for me, the conversations and the questions that we asked, I triggered them to say, hey, there's such a great chance for us to cause transformation to happen.
Yeah, I love that you started off with helping them see a vision. And asking,
in a nutshell, yes.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we forget that. I was with a group of leaders earlier this week, and just reminding them that, because I want to talk to you, I'm going to prep you a little bit here. So I want you to tell us a little bit of the challenges that you faced along the way, because I know it's not always easy. We're trying to make massive change and have a positive impact in the world around us, and it's not without challenge. But one of the things that I have learned over time is that when we can hang on to vision gives the pain a purpose.
Wow.
Vision gives
That's profound.
A purpose. And
vision gives pain a purpose.
Yeah. And being able to keep that in front of leaders, and especially when they are articulating the vision and hey, this is what it would look like. It would be amazing if going 20 years into the future, if we had leaders like this Okay. Now
Mm.
it might be a little painful in the process to get us from here to
Mhm.
there. I think about that every time I need to exercise or do some things for my health because there's this healthy
Mhm.
person that I need to be. And so as I'm exercising and maybe not enjoying every minute of it, I have to remind myself that this vision over here, it gives that pain a
Oh, yes.
purpose, right? It gives that
Yeah.
pain a purpose. So tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced and what did you do?
Yeah, thank you very much, Genesis. And I like that you mentioned that quote that vision gives pain a purpose, because I mean we're coming off of a template of actual pain as a nation. There is not a single Rwandan that was not affected by the genocide just 30 years ago. So many people still carry the trauma, which trauma carries a sense of um, pessimism and the fact that nothing good can come out of transformation. But again, it has its roots in just our recent past. So some of the challenges we've faced with the different stakeholders that we're working with is really dragging them into a buy-in, because they carry an impossibility mindset.
Mm.
Yeah, they're like, I'm just here to do what I need to do. I don't think people are gonna change because people are evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so try and paint that picture of possibility, even through the pain, for purpose to be at the other end of vision has been really, really a challenge. And the other challenge we've faced is really getting schools to change or to accommodate another program on top of everything else that they're doing has been a little bit of a challenge. Some schools have struggled to adjust. We work with teachers in schools, we call them sponsors, and some are difficult to deal with. So we do have obviously challenges executing the program in schools. You can find the leadership of a school, they've given you buy-in, they've opened 1,000 students to you, but the people who have to help you execute the program, you have to deal with mindset issues, and that has been quite a challenge on the people side. Yeah,
Mm.
but challenges notwithstanding, we we are looking at the purpose as the end goal and enduring the pain in the middle, because the vision drives us. Really, the vision of this program is we want to see values-based leaders in Rwanda, future leaders in Rwanda who practice personal and transformational leadership for a better country. So that vision drives us to deal with some of the challenges that we're dealing with.
No, that's fantastic. So do you have a favorite story of someone that has maybe gone through your program and you have seen
Mm-hmm.
them really stepping up and taking ownership to be that leader that you see they can be for
Mm-hmm.
the future? Do you have any favorite stories that you can share with us?
Yeah, there are tons, and with the help of technology and media, is we've been able to capture some of these stories and the testimonies of students, and they're up on our social media sites. So you go to iLead Rwanda either on Instagram or Twitter, you'll be able to see for yourself the transformation stories. But one particular story that has never left my mind is of a young lady called Esther. So Esther is in one of the schools where the iLead program runs, and Esther was born out of a situation of rape. Um, and then there's this school that runs that brings in orphans or kids who really didn't have a hope or a future or didn't even know their parents. And before Esther started the iLead program, she had this narrative that she was unwanted because she never knew her parents. So she has an opportunity of having a great education. But after she went through the program of growth and attitude and choices, which are some of the topics that they cover, she has changed her view of herself, and she's now leading a table in her school, And she said something so profound, is that before I joined the iLead program, before I was transformed with the topics in this program, is I was Esther the unwanted. But now I have a reason to embrace my future, because I am not what happened to me. I have the opportunity to make choices that will transform my future based on of different sets of circumstances. So right now, she is a leader in her school, and she's doing great things in her school. She's looking forward to becoming a leader that will transform others in the future. So that's just one of thousands of stories. And one of our common friend, John Griffin, visited Rwanda, and he keeps talking about that very story of Esther, because she shared that in his presence, and he was wrecked. He was a mess, hearing a student, in her own words, talk about the journey of transformation from being an unwanted Esther to an Esther who is full of possibilities and a hope for a future. Yeah.
It's just incredible. Yeah, I'm like trying to hold back the emotion myself, because that's just incredible. It's incredible. And understanding that Esther is one of 100,000 that are going on that same journey of understanding their own value, their own worth, and their own ability to lead well into the future. And I think even just some of my own journey and some of my own things that I have, places where I have learned and grown the most, have been out of places of pain, places where people that should have been good leaders were not, places where, like where there have been leadership failures, but being able to look at that. And I had someone speak into my life, early on, and just talking to me as I had opportunities in the future to be able to be the leader that I wish I had had. And I see that in Esther and in so many others that you are able to impact, is that they're going to be able to grow up to be the leader that they wish that they had had. And some of them, obviously, you are doing a fantastic job, and the rest of your team, and leading well. But it doesn't negate the fact that there's others in other circumstances and other things, whether it's parents or maybe even sometimes it can be school leaders, governmental leaders, all kinds of different leaders that we face in our life. And unfortunately, not everyone leads well. I wish that
unfortunately,
but
unfortunately.
That's where we get to pour into ourselves, so that we keep continuing to lead to the best of our abilities, and then raise up generations of leaders that can lead well.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that story. So tell me, remind me a little bit about where things are today. So I know that you guys started just a couple of years ago, and you mentioned, I think you're about ready to onboard about 60,000 students. Did I remember that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. So we are onboarding about 100 schools. We already have about 95 schools already onboarded. So we have 100 schools coming on board really by the end of this month, September. And the roundtables will begin in October of 2023, even as we have this broadcast. So it's going to be 60,000 students in formal schooling. They're in formal schooling. Currently, we are running 35,000 students already on the program. So that will be 95,000 students. But for me, the most exciting is we're getting ready to onboard 5,000 juveniles that are in rehabilitation centers in Rwanda. And these have fallen out of school because of different reasons, just like young troubled youth anywhere in the world. So we have about 3,000 young men and 2,000 young ladies that are being held and rehabilitated in these institutions. In fact, my leader is signing a memorandum of understanding on Monday with the head of the National Rehabilitation Services of Rwanda. And as soon as that is done, 2 weeks after that, we're going to be taking iLead into these spaces. And just imagine with me, on top of what the government is doing to rehabilitate and reintegrate these juveniles into society, what the iLead program is going to do to add value to that process. For me, that's the most exciting thing that is happening this season, of course, on top of all the other good things that are happening around the iLead program.
No, that's incredible. I love that. And I think there's just some incredible lessons there for people around the world and just understanding. I think it's devastating when you think about some like a troubled youth, as someone, maybe a troubled teen that has fallen through the cracks somewhere and they land themselves in a situation where they're in some sort of a rehabilitation center, whatever that looks like. That looks different in different communities, different countries. But I think we all understand what we're talking about. But these are still young people that have a whole lifetime ahead of them, and to be able to impact their life at this juncture and to give them a hope, to give them a future, to give them a way forward is incredible.
Yeah. And by the way, for the rehabilitation centers, we had a story of transformation in one of the countries where iLead is running, Guatemala.
Yeah.
And they took the iLead program into the juvenile rehabilitation centers of Guatemala, and almost a miracle happened. This had never happened in the history of Guatemala's, juvenile rehabilitation process. They came from having many of the young people spiral back into addiction and then being taken back. But after the iLead program, the people in Guatemala have registered 0% recidivism rate. So that's the level of impact there. So when I had that story, I said, you know what? We do have a couple of young people that are being rehabilitated. Let's see what the story of impact will be for us, because about 40% in Rwanda keep falling back into cycles of behavior that draws them back. So because of the iLead program in Guatemala, we are hoping that we'll have at least that number of recidivism go down significantly. So we are really, really excited.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing, right? I mean, if we could solve that recidivism rate, like, so people can break the cycle and have that hope, have that future for their life. And that's amazing. Like, let's do that, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Thank you so much for everything that you are doing to make a difference, not just in your world, but because I know that in our global world, we're all connected. And what happens in Rwanda impacts our global world. And so thank you so much for everything that you are doing to make an impact in your area and make a positive impact in the world. So I just have one last question for you today. So
sure.
If you had a piece of advice for transformational leaders, so there's someone, you're speaking to someone somewhere around the world that really wants to make a difference. Maybe it's that person that you were a few years ago that really saw some things and wanted to make a difference. Maybe it's in their community, maybe it's in their family, maybe it's in their school, maybe it's in their organization. They could be a business leader. What piece of advice would you give them?
The first advice, especially from the context where I come from, is never to give up on yourself. Yeah. Now, bad things happen to good people. We have not, like you said, not everyone leads well, not everyone is led well, and sometimes bad leadership causes a lot of pain, and people just park. They just reach a place where they hit a ceiling in their lives, and everything is downward from that. So my advice for people is never to give up on yourself. It is possible to reignite your journey of personal transformation for the purpose of reigniting the journey of transformation of others. That is the story of us here in Rwanda. It's my story and the story of many leaders, is that in so many places of hopelessness, if we do not give up, we can change the narrative again. But it always starts with us taking a chance on ourselves, betting on ourselves that we can do better, that even when circumstances around us do not spell better, better starts from believing in ourselves and pushing ahead. I think it's John Maxwell that says that everything good and worthwhile is uphill. And you know, walking the journey that might seem uphill, knowing fully well that if you don't give up on yourself, then we have a chance of others not giving up on themselves based on your story. Yeah.
Well, that's really powerful. Thank you. And what a good reminder that it always starts here. It always starts inside of us. And I think it's probably another John Maxwell quote somewhere where he talks about what comes to you should flow through you. But we can't give, right? We can't give something that we don't have. And so absolutely. What a great reminder to make sure that we're investing in ourselves, believing in ourselves, and really going on that journey and not giving up. So here we go, transformational leaders. Remember, we don't just see problems, we take action. So today, I just want to challenge you to take the advice that Hassan said, figure out an action step. What does that mean for you? Maybe you need to reignite your personal growth journey. Maybe you need to get around some other like-minded people. Maybe there's some conversations, right? You talked about conversations in the beginning. Maybe there's some conversations that you need to have to keep moving forward so that we can make an impact, a positive impact in the world around us. So action is great, but we are more likely to take action if there's accountability. So let us know in the comments when you take action. What was that action that you decided to take, and when did you do it? So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can stay inspired, equipped, challenged to change the world around you. And I also want to encourage you to follow Hassan and the story of iLead Rwanda, because I think they are just getting started. They're still, just a few years into this, already making a huge, incredible impact. So Hassan, where do people go if they want to follow your story, follow the journey of iLead Rwanda? Where do you want them to go?
Yeah, so we are on social media. So everything is iLead Rwanda hashtag, or the pages are tagged iLead Rwanda, and that's an I, and then lead Rwanda. And you can pretty much find a lot of inspirational testimonies there for what we've been able to do for our Rwandan students and young people in Rwanda. Yeah, and personally, I'm also on social media, Hassan Kibirango, on all the different social media pages.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. That's it. That's a wrap for this episode of Transformational Leadership TV, and we will see you next time.